All right, a lot to talk about as the 49ers continue to prepare to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Latest news today, Jauan Jennings, 2 straight days of missed practice. So people are saying maybe, just maybe, Ricky Pearsall can pick up some of the slack in the receiving room. I'd pump the brakes on that a little bit just because the 49ers are sure to play that cautiously, make sure that Ricky is in good shape before they throw him out there. You obviously need a little bit of time to acclimate to the football field, but I wouldn't rule it out. I definitely would not rule it out. I was able to just briefly speak with Jauan, didn't interview him or anything, just checked up on him. There's Locker today, and he said and confirmed really because I was watching the game against Seattle. I thought that the hip injury might have happened on that third down play where the two DBs crashed hard and it looked very painful. Well, it was very painful for Jauan Jennings. So he's going to do his best, but he hadn't practiced on Wednesday or Thursday. 49ers have one more slower speed session tomorrow on Friday. It would not surprise me if Jennings is ruled out or if Kyle Shanahan rules him as doubtful, but we shall see. This is all, of course, fluid. And Ricky Pearsall, that news might drop tomorrow as well. Will the 49ers decide to activate him to the 53-man roster? Currently is just Ricky Pearsall's injury window that's open. This is all coming within the context of a matchup against the Chiefs, who were really able to expose the 49ers' inability to beat man coverage in a lot of spots during the Super Bowl last year. And, Jauan Jennings, you'll talk to Kyle Shanahan. He's open about this. He'll say that that Jauan Jennings is the best separator on the football team, better than Brandon Ayuk. We know that Brandon Ayuk has been a good separator his whole career, but Kyle Shanahan has actually given the nod to Jauan Jennings when it comes to separation. So probably not surprising that Jennings had such a huge Super Bowl. Got that big touchdown late in the game, but also obviously threw the touchdown to Christian McCaffrey. That was the 49ers' best play, most famous play of Super Bowl 58. Looks like there's a strong chance that the 49ers will have neither of players from that connection suiting up on Sunday against the Chiefs. That'd be Jennings on the throwing end, and obviously Christian McCaffrey, who's on injured reserve on the receiving end. So we talk about separation, though, and the ability to beat man coverage. You can't ignore Ricky Pearsall's potential addition in that department. And maybe it doesn't come this weekend against the Chiefs, but Brock Purdy was already talking about it today. He said that in the red zone in practice, Ricky Pearsall is already generating enough separation to free other guys up. That's what Christian McCaffrey did so well, plus the fact that Christian McCaffrey is just a threat. Bottom line, he's got that reputation, so other guys can free up because of it. But McCaffrey can separate, probably the best against man coverage on this football team. Jennings might be the best in the receiver room out of the veterans, but Ricky Pearsall, smooth operator. We saw him beat man coverage in limited time over the course of training camp, and supposedly it's already happening in practice for the 49ers. We'll see if he's up to speed enough to be activated for this game. Other news is that Kevin Givens also missed practice today. It's the 49ers defensive tackle with a groin issue. So I could take a look here with you at the 49ers depth chart just to see what the status of everything is entering this game. And I need to shade Kevin Givens with that pink color there. Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott were both limited today, so they were back at practice. That's the good news. So we'll take them off the injury list. Both of those guys had missed Wednesday's session, but they're trending in the right direction if they were out there, even in a limited capacity on Thursday. So it's your second string defensive tackle in Kevin Givens who's hurt. We're inching closer and closer to an Evan Anderson promotion to the 53-man roster. The rookie who can dunk, we've recently learned that he can dunk. The rookie who can dunk the basketball from a 320-pound frame. 49ers love those explosive defensive tackles. Kalia Davis was another one of them, played stack linebacker in college. But Evan Anderson has already been temporarily elevated from the practice squad twice. If the 49ers need another body in that defensive tackle rotation, if Kevin Givens is out, Anderson is out of temporary call-ups, they're going to have to promote him to the 53 full-time. So I think you want to get your best guys out on the field. Will they have to make a roster maneuver to do so? Yeah, yes. But if it's necessary, I think that you find a way to do it. T.Y. McGill still has practice squad elevation left, so he'd be another option for the 49ers without messing with the roster. Also, if you activate Ricky Pearsall this week or any week, you're going to have to find a roster spot for Ricky Pearsall. A lot of people saying, well, Ronnie Bell, that could be the spot that Ricky Pearsall takes. It's possible, but you do have to make a maneuvering to fit that on the 53-man roster. Hopefully that helps illustrate what's going on here. Kansas City, a lot of defensive complexities. We know that they blitzed over 52% of the time against the 49ers last year. We know that the 49ers saw Kansas City rack up 9 unblocked pressures against them. So obviously there was a level of confusion generated by what the Chiefs were doing. We also know that the 49ers played one of the most blitz-happy teams in the NFL already this year in week 2 when they faced the Vikings. So the Vikings and the Chiefs are obviously different defenses. The Vikings play a whole lot of zone, and the Chiefs play a whole lot of man coverage, which was one of the themes of all our coverage today, and I think the main theme out of the 49ers locker room. But the similarity is that it's an extremely aggressive defense, and the Chiefs are likely to be extremely aggressive when it comes to bringing extra pressure against Brock Purdy. The similarities might stop there, but I think that's enough overlap for us to discuss how the 49ers are going to handle the pressure. So I asked George Kittle about it, framing it around, okay, Minnesota ran complex pressure. What will the Chiefs run? How can the 49ers defeat it? Here's what George Kittle had to say in the 49ers locker room. Is it to diagnose what they're bringing pressure-wise? I know they did a ton of it. I know you played a team like Minnesota who also blitzed a lot. Does this
They're compare? A little different, but yeah. Okay. No, Minnesota's, yeah, they're wild. No, but you can't, like, you're not going to obviously see it every single time, but, I mean, the Chiefs do, they play situational football, so, like, their coverages change. Like, they'll play something in the first half on third down, the second half they'll play something different, and then you get to, like, pressure downs, like, fourth quarter, they play different stuff as well. So it's like their defense coordinator does a fantastic job. He switches stuff up all the time, so you can't just be, hey, we know we're going to get 11 lurk, and we know this guy's going to lurk. They switch it up, like, almost every single time, like, constantly throughout the game, too. So I think that's one reason they've had the success. And also, like, when you look at the Chiefs' defense, what it is this year as it was last year and the year before is they're significantly better. Like, those guys have played together a lot of games. They're more on it. They're more on their coverages. You can see, like, how they play with each other. So this is definitely the best defense I think we faced all year.
George, a couple more guys.
George Kittle says he thinks the Chiefs are definitely the best defense the 49ers have faced all year. I find that to be a rather pointed comment that we've also heard from Kyle Shanahan at this point, because the Vikings are damn good. And when we actually look at the metrics this year, then you'll see that the Vikings, at least according to EPA, are the best defense in the league. This is from Ben Baldwin's website. And I know that I've shown this a couple times, but we got to show it again. The higher up you are on this graph on the y-axis, the better your defense has been by EPA per play. The Vikings are way up here. The Chiefs are down there. So, I mean, what gives? 49ers have played the Vikings, and yes, but Minnesota saw some defensive success against the 49ers. Really complex scheme. Again, more zone coverage for the Vikings. It's more man coverage for the Chiefs. And Steve Spagnolo today explained the reason why Kansas City is running so much man coverage, especially why they ran so much man coverage against the 49ers last year. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in the future. But the whole respect of Kansas City from the 49ers is super interesting to me. And I think it goes back to how fierce the rivalry has been in both Super Bowls. I mean, I talked to Trent Williams today at his locker, and he said that Andy Reid and Steve Spagnolo, that's like the Jordan Pippen of coaching. Like Andy Reid, 3 Super Bowls already. with the Kansas City Chiefs. Steve Spagnuolo's been there, 3 Super Bowls as his defensive coordinator. Then, of course, you've got Steve Spagnolo having won with the New York Giants. So these guys know, and we're talking about Spagnolo specifically now, these guys know how to dial it up at the biggest moments. And George Kittle alluded to that. He talked about the ability to call things situationally. That, so many of the 49ers have talked this week about how Kansas City will be able to throw out a wild card call at a huge 3rd and 6 with 4 minutes left in the game, where they'll show a completely different defense than they showed over the first 3 quarters of the game. Like, Spagnolo has been through the fire so many times that he knows which plays matter more. He knows how to keep offenses that really haven't been at his level off balance at those big moments. And, they use Chris Jones often as a decoy for blitzes. Chris Jones will line up at the end spots. He can line up at left defensive end, right defensive end. He's naturally a defensive tackle. But if he lines up at left defensive end, they'll bring Trent McDuffie on a nickel blitz over the right side because they know that extra defensive offensive blocking may shade over toward Chris Jones. So Kansas City will come at you from every which angle. They obviously beat the 49ers last season, and a big part of that were the calls from Steve Spagnolo on some of the pressures. They blitzed over 52% of the time, but the calls on some of the pressures at crucial moments. You think about the 3rd down with the score tied at 19. Jake Moody ended up having to kick a long field goal to put the 49ers up 22-19. And then you think about the overtime option for the 49ers, where they had 3rd down and Spencer Burford was unable to block Chris Jones because he was thinking about something else. He was going in a different direction. And I think a lot of that is probably a product of what Steve Spagnolo had brought against the 49ers all game long, created at least some sense of confusion on Spencer Burford's part, and the rest was history. The Chiefs were able to get that stop using the defensive complexity that has become a forte of their defensive coordinator. So this is a big game for not just Brock Purdy, but a big game for Jake Brendel, the center, because he's the one that calls the protections. I saw a lot of people today. There was a big debate online about whether or not Brock Purdy has a profound or glaring weakness. Somebody said, oh, yeah, well, he struggles to call protections against pressures. And it's like, that's not his job. In the 49ers system, this is the Shanahan system. This goes back as long as Shanahan has been coordinating offenses. So Matt Ryan with the 2016 Falcons record-setting offense, it was Alex Mack, the center, who was calling the protections. Shanahan wants things to be a certain way so the quarterback and his mind are uncluttered for some of the other jobs that he has. But in this game, that's especially significant because if Kansas City is going to blitz over 50% of the time, and if they're going to be bringing exotic pressure while they're at it, it's going to be up to the center to diagnose what's going on from a pressure perspective and communicate and set the pressures accordingly. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy does have some veto power there, obviously. He can, and if he sees something that he can take advantage of, he can audible or whatever you want to call it. He can change gears to get in the mode to capitalize on it. But it is up to the center to be ready to take care of business in a game that is going to be schematic warfare between the 49ers and the Chiefs. Shanahan against Spagnolo on that side. On the other side of the field, this to me is the graphic from last Super Bowl that the 49ers have to undo this time around. Mahomes versus the middle of the field. See if we can get this a little bit more visible. Take a look at the numbers just here in the middle. 7 of 7 throwing to the middle. It's in between the numbers. And that's behind the line of scrimmage. 13 of 14 to the middle between 0 and 10 yards downfield. 3 of 3 between 10 and 20 yards downfield. That's been Brock Purdy's sweet spot in seasons before this one. And 1 of 2, 20-plus yards downfield for Patrick Mahomes. That all added up to 24 of 26 at about 10 yards per attempt. So he absolutely carved the middle of the field. So Travis Kelce, 9 catches, right? I mean, they were the Kansas City Chiefs had what they wanted over the middle. not only on the final drive where they won the game with the touchdown, the walk-off touchdown, but also, I mean, the 49ers were hanging on by a thread there at the very, very end of regulation when they were leading 22-19, but the Chiefs were driving. A couple DB injuries for the 49ers by that last play of the game or last play of regulation. And they somehow, some way forced the stop and the field goal to get it into overtime, which I thought at the time was a huge, huge win for the 49ers. It didn't seem that game was going to go to overtime with the way that the Chiefs were moving the ball. But the big weakness for the 49ers was the middle of the field. After Dre Greenlaw got hurt, the Chiefs picked a lot on Oren Burks. Thought they picked on Tashawn Gibson in that game at safety, who was getting older for the 49ers. Obviously, there was no Talanoa Hufanga, so it was a rookie, Jair Brown, for the 49ers at safety. I do think that similar issues this year have reared their ugly heads for the 49ers defense as far as concerns against the type of attack that Kansas City is running. And I've talked about it a lot. The Chiefs want to really, really focus on the middle of the field to set up Yak, but there is no Dre Greenlaw right now for the 49ers. Devondre Campbell is that second linebacker. They're not getting great safety coverage, at least so far, according to the metrics. Maybe that will improve with more time for Malik Mustafa, the rookie phenom, to establish himself. But I think the teams have picked up some yardage against Jair Brown in coverage. They definitely picked up yardage against George Odom in coverage, but Mustafa starting instead of him with Talanoa Hufanga on injured reserve. So it's the safety spot and it's the linebacker spots that combat the middle of the field most often. And those are the intermediate and the short throws and some of the longer throws over the middle. The ones behind the line of scrimmage, it's going to be a team-wide effort to rally to the football on screen passes. So the 49ers obviously want to deploy Fred Warner effectively as much as possible over the middle of the field to fight what Kansas City's doing. But there's only one of Fred Warner for the 49ers. And that's a problem, because if there's only one of a certain guy at a position, schematically, if an offense is decently protected, decently balanced, and I think Kansas City has the line, especially the interior line, to hold their own against the 49ers defensive front, you can neutralize a superstar on the other side. You can play the game away from him. He can affect the game, obviously, but the Chiefs, I think, have generally done a good job over the past two meetings. I'm talking the 2022 meeting and the Super Bowl last season. They've generally done a good job to not let things run through Fred Warner. And the 49ers definitely want things to run through Fred Warner, because that's how they can take back the middle of the field. But if you can attack the 49ers reserve weapons like Devondre Campbell, if you can go after their safeties, who I think might be weaker than their cornerbacks relatively in coverage this year, you can see some success against San Francisco. Now, I know that the Chiefs have really, really emphasized pounding the rock over the past couple of years. Isaiah Pacheco was first smashing onto the scene in 2022. And that was against the 49ers. He had a 100-yard outing that day. San Francisco was unable to stop anything. Andy Reid also is really, really creative up front. So if anybody's a little hobbled, he's going to pick on them. He's going to be able – and Bosa was coming back from injury in that 2022 game. He didn't play against Atlanta the week prior, and they were able to run in Bosa's direction, and they were able to throw in Charvarius Ward's direction. He also was coming off an injury the week prior, and it was a big-time struggle for the 49ers. So Mahomes in the middle of the field is where he's liked to go so far this year. But even if the 49ers are able to dedicate a little extra help there, Mahomes and this Chiefs offense have shown that they can attack different parts of the field. And my overarching point is that this is going to have to be a complete performance from the 49ers defense. Things are trending in the right direction for this unit. They looked really good against the Seattle Seahawks for the vast, vast majority of the game. I thought they looked good against the Arizona Cardinals for a lot of the game, but the heat and the offensive turnovers caught up to them, and they obviously looked good against the Patriots. This is really the ultimate test in this four-game stretch. Defensively, it should get easier for the 49ers the next week against Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. I think Ezekiel Elliott is still Dallas's running back. It's hard to take an offense seriously when Zeke Elliott in the year 2024 is a top running back. I know they got Rico Dowdle as well, but this Kansas City team, this is as challenging as it gets. Top 5 offense, Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, obviously Travis Kelce with the chemistry that he has with Mahomes at one of those spots to catch passes. And in the receiving room, yeah, there may be no Rashee Rice. There may be some injuries there, but Patrick Mahomes has the ability to make anybody functional. And so far, the Chiefs have been functional, that's for sure, with that 5-0 record. I want to get the Spagnolo clip up for you guys because this was good, talking about man versus zone coverage today. Why don't we play this?
You played a lot of man that day, or that night. Of the benefits of playing man against that particular opponent, what did you see in that?
I think the quarterback's really good against zone and finding those pockets and spaces, and I think the receivers adjust routes to do that. That makes it really challenging in zone. Now, one of the things you got to remember is we had, last year was a little different. LJ was here, and Trent, we had him in a different spot, and so we'll see if we can do the same things. But I just think their system is built that they really can expose zone coverage, and yet I think they got enough skill that if you don't have the right man people covering their men, that can be challenging too. I mean, it's going to start up front and stop in the run, and hopefully we can get the quarterback not to be in timing like he is, because I can't find a weakness in this quarterback. Every time I put the film on, I'm more and more impressed. It's funny, I was watching, you guys will have a better idea of the year. When did we go out there and play in a regular season game? Yeah, and it was at the end of the game, and I think they had taken Garoppolo out, and it was Brock Purdy, and I had forgotten that, but he ran the 2-minute drill and kind of got him down there, and then I think we picked it off at the end, but he looked pretty good then, not like he is now, but I'm really impressed with the quarterback.
So what was really interesting is that Steve Spagnolo there talked about when he had L'Jarius Sneed last season. L'Jarius is now with the Titans, doesn't have him anymore, playing outside cornerback. And he said that Trent McDuffie, who's still playing corner for this team, still DB for the Chiefs, was at a different position. He said, well, we'll see if we can do the same stuff that we did with those guys against the 49ers this year. What L'Jarius Sneed did for the Chiefs on the outside, he'd play lockdown coverage, and that allowed Trent McDuffie to play that slot corner position. Trent McDuffie blitzed at the end of regulation, a minute 58 or whatever, however much was left coming out of the 2-minute warning. Third down for the 49ers. First down comes close to icing the game because they'd be able to run out the clock and Jake Moody could kick a potential game-winning field goal, Super Bowl-winning field goal. It was the blitz from Trent McDuffie coming from the slot corner position that derailed that play. But this year, McDuffie's having to play on the outside because L'Jarius Sneed is no longer with the team. So it's Jalen Watson as one of the corners on the outside with Trent McDuffie playing the other side. They got Shamari Connor playing the nickelback spot now. So you've got different personnel for Kansas City. And, you might seem like a minute change with McDuffie moving from the inside to the outside, but I guarantee you that's a huge change. And he's had to do it because they don't have L'Jarius Sneed, who was one of the best corners in the game last year. So the complexities for Kansas City's defense are found up front with how often they blitz, and on the back end with how they play the man coverage and how they sometimes will take some of those defensive backs to add to the pressure. And they're exotic with it. They're unpredictable with it. There are surprises at every corner of this defense, but ultimately this is a players' league. And you need the players to execute these complex schemes. Does Kansas City have those players? Well, the early returns are good, but just as the 49ers might be facing the best defense that they've seen so far, the Chiefs defense might be facing the best offense that it has seen so far in this season. And we'll find out who's got enough talent to get this done. Chiefs might have less, but the 49ers also have less, like no L'Jarius Sneed, I get it, but also no Christian McCaffrey, maybe no Jauan Jennings, who's a separator that you need against the kind of stuff that the Kansas City Chiefs like to run. So football is a test of attrition. It is a test of depth. And both of these teams here in this Week 7 matchup are going to be strained in unique ways. All right, I'm going to open this up to a 49ers Q&A. Let's get after it. Brian Smith says time waits for no man unless that man is Brock Purdy. Profound. No new info on Dre Greenlaw. We'll check in on that soon. I think the bigger focus right now is the 49ers and the Chiefs, although I might have an opportunity to ask Kyle Shanahan about Dre Greenlaw tomorrow. What's the plan if both Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall are out? Good question. We can open up the roster for you here. So receiver room, Jauan Jennings, shaded in pink for the injury. Obviously, you've got Ayuk and Samuel at the top of the room. Conley would be one of the receivers that you have in that situation. And then you've got, so if there's no Jennings and no Pearsall, and you want to get those 5 receivers up, Bell and Cowing would be the natural next 2, given their special teams adaptability. Cowing being your punt returner. Ronnie Bell also capable of being a punt returner. If you trust Trent Taylor more than Ronnie Bell or Jacob Cowing for the punt return job in a game like this, you could always promote Trent Taylor for the second time this year. I think Tariq Owens is a little bit too raw. But if both of those guys are out, I think it's fairly straightforward. It's Bell and it's Cowing with a potential twist and a Trent Taylor appearance for punt returns. But I do think the 49ers aren't all too uncomfortable with Jacob Cowing back there at this point of his rookie season. Debo will be fine. He's in a non-contact jersey, but he is out at practice right now. I would not begin to doubt that Debo Samuel will be out there on Sunday. Bo Adams thinks that Brock Purdy is going to dominate this football game. 310 yards, 75% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns. All right. 49ers can get behind that, that's for sure. It's got to stay away from the interceptions, obviously, against the team with Patrick Mahomes on the other side. Need to share this with you right now. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. October is the season for wearing masks and costumes, but some of us feel like we wear a mask and hide more often than we want to at work, in social settings, and around our family. Therapy can help you learn to accept all parts of yourself so you can take off the mask, because masks should be for Halloween fun, not for our emotions. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Lombardi Lounge today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/Lombardi Lounge. Back to the Q&A. Brian asked, do you see the Chiefs targeting Campbell since they seem to with Greenlaw out? Of course. I mean, I think we saw the Seahawks try to target Devondre Campbell. They found a mix-up in the 49ers coverage on an early third down. DK Metcalf was off to the races for, a 30-yard gain? It's the kind of stuff that's going to happen on a football field. But then you try to conceal what you're doing defensively, and you try to create a plan that prevents Patrick Mahomes from going in that direction, from exposing some of your bigger coverage weaknesses. So, yeah, of course, Andy Reid is going to go after what he perceives to be weak points on the 49ers defense, but San Francisco has the ability to counter that, and we'll see who does a better job in the chess match. How will left and right tackle match up with Chris Jones this time? Well, it's not just, Chris Jones plays defensive tackle. So it's about how the guards are going to match up against him. Aaron Banks on the left side, Dominic Pooney on the right side. Dominic Pooney, I would think it's safe to say, is a big upgrade over Spencer Burford, John Feliciano. So we'll see Jones working against him. Then we'll see Jones working against McKivitz. We'll see Jones maybe working a little bit against Jake Brendel, Banks. He could work anywhere along that defensive line. Obviously, Trent Williams at left tackle. Collectively, the 49ers offensive line has improved. They're actually in the top half of the rankings when it comes to pass blocking efficiency and pass blocking grade. Pooney has given him that boost, but a boost is not enough. If you got to go out there and actually execute in this game against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're saying that Mike Pennell is one of the best run stoppers in the league. He's a nose tackle for the Chiefs, used on a rotational basis. But this run defense for Kansas City has improved from number 28 to number 8. Pennell at that nose tackle spot behind Tershawn Wharton. He's a guy that you have to neutralize. So that's up to the 49ers interior offensive lineman. It's not just about Chris Jones, even though he's going to get quite a bit of attention. All right. Hopefully that sets the matchup for you guys well. Start of the show, we talk the news. End of the show, we talk the strategy, answer your questions. Time to go chill. Tomorrow's Friday. Final injury report coming. We got another Levi Stadium food tour tomorrow coming as well. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, we rest and recover, get ready for the game on Sunday. By the way, I have to share this every single show before I forget. Lombardi Lounge meetup Saturday, 5 p.m. at the Candlestick Park Bar right near Oracle Park in San Francisco. You come and meet me and come meet Margot. She'll be there as well. That'll be the Lombardi Lounge meetup coming in 2 days. Easy to get to. You can take Caltrain right in the 4th and King. It's on 3rd Street. The Candlestick Park Bar. I thought that was a cool name. I thought that's where we had to host this one. So hopefully see a few of you. We can have some happy hour drinks at 5 o'clock on Saturday. So everybody, thank you for coming in. Make sure you come out on Saturday. We will talk to you very soon.